So let's start. Thank you very much for joining us under our dome, European Public Sphere Dome. We will have now our first dome talk here in Rome on the Global Forum on Modern Direct Democracy. So this is the European Public Sphere project. We travel with our dome all over Europe. We started 1 year before in Austria, and then we have a lot of dome talks in Germany. We have been in Spain before in springtime, and the last weeks we traveled also in Western Austria and South Tyrol, and next year we try to go to the Netherlands and to Belgium and Luxembourg probably, and maybe also in Eastern countries, Eastern and Middle European countries. And the idea is to bring up or to help bringing up a European public sphere. Europe needs, for a European democracy, we need discussions on Europe, not only information from Brussels to the people, how good our European Union is, but also the people talking to each other about what Europe should be in future. And Europe is not only the EU. We have somebody here from Turkey, so Europe is more than the EU, but the EU is a political project for shaping some parts of Europe together, but the European Union is always in progress, and it's also becoming bigger and bigger. So the whole European continent is our topic, and the idea is also to make documentation on these talks. A talk with 10, 20 people, it's big enough to have a good discussions, but it's also necessary to spread it, to have more resonance. That's why we do these videos on these talks. The question for today, for our first dome talk here, is the democracy of Europe, the experiences in the different countries, and also the perspective for European democracy. We are used to make a little starting round where everybody says his name and maybe say one first concrete and short input. So we hear from each other, and then we have enough time to go deeper in our topic.
I would like the European peoples having more to say on the European level. For example, the European initiative be more powerful than nowadays.
And your name and where are you
Angelika Gardner from Hamburg, Germany.
Yeah.
So I'm Marion Kramers from Brussels and from the Democratic Society, and so democracy is the life we live professionally in this case as well. And so my thought would be that for all the models and online platforms and initiatives that there are, we need to find a way to design and develop democracy in a way that works for an ordinary person who has a lot of work on their hands, who has a lot of conflicting priorities, and who has a lot of anxiety as well about the future. So doing that or finding clues towards that is why I'm here today.
Hi, my name is Sarah from Stuttgart, Germany, and I want the European Union to still be an example in this world for other countries who want to be together and be a union which is a democratic union. And I think the European Union is something special. We never did something before like this on Earth. And right now it's losing a lot of credibility, and I wish that we change direction and find a new path where we can share responsibilities on a European level and not making people afraid of losing their nations in the process.
My name is Manfred Brandt. I'm from Hamburg, Germany. And my dream was always, when I was a small boy, that we will have a united Europe, anyone, to avoid more wars. That was my first dream, and I started some years ago I'm an old man, and my idea was young people should should make a proposal for a European constitution, and to make a proposal and to decide and then to give their ideas how the future of Europe should be constituted. And I think we should start again to find and to push young people to go this way.
Well, my name is Guido De Simone. I'm Italian entrepreneur. I'm here because, I've been fighting for 7 years for the open primaries to be institutionalized by a law in my country, but also in Europe, because it's the only way to solve the problem of political parties that are not sometimes considerably at service of population, but just doing something else. And the problem is not only Italian; it's in every country where there is apparently democracy. And I say apparently because honestly, as far as I could see, real democracy is not realized yet. One of the main reasons why we Europeans are so much in love with the idea of European Union is simply because it's solving the problems that cannot be solved at home. And that's the main point. We need somebody who is democratically controlled by us so that can intervene where there is an abuse of power, which is not something to be undervalued also in Europe, and not only in countries like Italy or Greece or whatever. It's something that is actually very well actual also in countries like Sweden, where there are parties that are coming up, and probably creating problems if there is not a democratic control from citizens.
So, hello everybody, my name is Ecem. I'm coming from Turkey. I'm coming from a country where a lot of young people would like to be part of European Union. I grew up like this. When I was a child, my dream was to be a European citizen, not knowing what is actually European Union. And then I happened to study European Union and political science. Now I have more information about it. And I agree on Sarah about the lack of credibility these days in and outside of the European Union. I am pretty fascinated by Habermas and on his deliberative democracy and the idea of European constitution, and I would love that thing would happen one day and would be a sort of example for the other countries to promote their human rights and democracy, the concept of democracy. That's why I'm here today, and I'm so happy that you built this thing. It's a very good thing to be part of.
Hello, I'm Robert from Munich, Germany, and I'm a sociologist and a researcher on democracy. We started our research program in August, so it's very, very young, and I'm here to get some inspiration to our project. It is called Repair Democracy. You can have a flyer and contact and so on if you want. And I just read the bold typed text. We want to develop a collaborative understanding of democracy for the participatory design of social environments and to repair the connection between various actors and matters of concern, like Bruno Latour named. And we try to go in very small microstructures just to look at the relationship between people, how they act together when they, for example, repair a bike or their shoes and so on, and what can we learn for democracy in a bigger sense if we look at these relationships and we try to repair. It is in this double sense. We want to repair democracy and repair the connections of people and matters of concern. And yes, we need a lot of people who can help us and so on. And yes, we will talk later. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sam Chang. I'm the president of the Negative Voter Association based in Taiwan. I've come to this forum to introduce an idea that we believe can improve all democracies in the world. And the idea is very simple. Have the choice to vote no against a candidate you really despise and have that vote count as -1. So for example, there are 2 candidates. You would have 4 options, but you only have 1 vote. It's very important you only have 1 vote. Out of these 4 boxes, you can only pick 1 box. So if you don't like any candidates, you can pick the person or party you despise the most and have that vote counted as -1. So winner of the election has to be someone who gets higher net positive votes. 1 person, 1 vote still. This will definitely increase participation, especially participation of the middle electorate who are not partisan loyalists. Because there is only 1 vote, no political party or candidate will be so stupid as to encourage the loyal partisan voters to vote no, because you need a yes vote. So who's going to vote no are the non-partisan, independent-minded middle electorate. And when you have only 1 vote, if you choose to vote no, you will vote against the worst politician. To the middle electorate, that means extremist. So this is how you increase participation and improve democracy, get rid of the populist extremists. And now we believe this should be a fundamental human right. In the history of humankind, to be able to say no is a fundamental engine of progress in almost every field you can think of, whether it's politics, science, or art. To be able to choose to say no is very, very important. Why don't we have that choice when we vote? In the election of the UN Secretary General, if you Google it, that choice is already available. So why don't we have the choice when we select our leader? That's a question I ask.
Hello, my name is Jörg. I'm from Cologne, Germany. And I want to say, every time we have to think about the basic for our life, are the people. And every time my wish is to invite people for the political things to decide to go this way. And it's not my first Dome talk. I had different Dome talks. And every time I think about the world is a colored world with different views to the world. And it's great to hear people with these different views to the world. And now we have to see how we can put it together, how we can decide how to live together. And that's a really, really good way to speak. And then we have to find out what's the way, what the rules we give to us. So, and that's the part I want to say. And now,
my name is Maarten de Groot. I'm Dutch. I'm based in Brussels. When it comes to the question of democracy in Europe, I think at the moment the main challenge is not so much identifying, let's say, ideal blueprints for how to organize the future of democracy in Europe. There are many different visions on that, which is great. And I think there among many people there's sort of consensus agreement that we need some form of bottom-up democratic relaunch, let's say, of the European project. And I think among those people, the real challenge is to overcome the differences in the ideal visions we have on the future of Europe and to be slightly more pragmatic, basically, and to recognize that it's quite urgent. I mean, we have the European elections in May 2019. Well, many people consider that the expectations are not so good in terms of progressive politics, let's say. So I think we need to recognize the urgency of the moment, recognize and that among those people who agreed that we need some form of bottom-up democratic relaunch, that what unites us and the urgency of the moment is more important than what divides us. So we need to find sort of this common ground and start from there, and then indeed properly organizing ourselves towards doing something about it, because at political level, I would say there's an impasse when it comes to the big question of democracy in Europe. Treaty change is off the agenda for foreseeable future. So who else if not civil society?
Thank you. Hello everybody, my name is Alexander Trennhäuser. I'm from Cologne, Europe, Germany, North Rhine-Westphalia. It's my first public sphere. I say that because we organized a tour through all over North Rhine-Westphalia, but I was in parental holidays for 3 months, and Jörg did all the organization of the tour, and I didn't see this great sphere. I just saw some photos, and now I have my first real life experience of the European public sphere, and it's great. And there are so many examples what the European Union is already doing, but now we have to do a greater step. We have to build a European Union of the people, and you cannot go this step with one big step. You just have to start this tour, and so I think this European public sphere is the right way just to start talking about it, not to wait for Emmanuel Macron or all these guys presenting us the great way to a European constitution made by the people. Just start talking about it in many ways. You have this Pulse of Europe House Parliament way. This is a great way. The European public sphere way brings people together and bring them to think about the European Union and how she should be in the future.
We have 2 more guests in the dome. Welcome. We just made a small first round.
Okay.
And we have to talk loud because these microphones are only for the video. It's just for the video, so we have to talk loud so we can hear each other.
Okay. I'm Alessandra Lecese, Vice President of the Federalists, European Federalists. And I think that we need to re-energize European Union. We need to meet people and to explain what kind of Europe we want for next generation and now for us. Because the European Union needs now to become a real political union. We need a political Europe because it isn't enough to reach just euro, that's to say the monetary union. We need a fiscal union. We need a common foreign policy. We need a security, a kind of politics for security. In this way, what do we do as federalists? Well, we have a lot of actions on table because we try to meet people to put together some people and discuss with us. We need students at school, and we try to explain what European institutions are, in which way they can work, and in which way we can make a change. Because the European Union isn't in touch with its citizens, because it isn't enough a participatory democracy. We should make a leap towards a deliberative democracy according to the theory of Fishkin.
So thank you. My name is Nina Schnieder from Austria. I am part of the platform called Democracy 21. We are creating an intersectoral dialogue where we bring several different people to one table from different parties, from different fields, to talk about in which democracy do we want to live tomorrow. There is really an open dialogue going on with decision makers. We are pretty new. We started in June, and we will gain more experience during the next couple of months. What I believe what Europe needs is more innovations like the European Dome Talk, right? Because we need an ecosystem of innovative projects that actually help to bring the people closer together.
That's the point. And I think we have the top and we have the bottom. And it's not only the way to explain from the top to the bottom what's the right way. We must invite the people, to that what there is the wishes. Many people say, "Oh, they're so far away, I can do nothing." And there we have to look what's the right equality between top and down. Yeah. And we need more opportunities, possibilities for people to go into the system with the things they have.
I wonder what happened to the movement Pulse of Europe. For a while it was very successful and very widespread in Germany. All the young people, after the Brexit referendum, they all came together in public squares and explained why they love Europe and why they need Europe and why they want to stay in the European Union. And now all of a sudden nobody talks about them anymore, and it's apparently faded away. So that is a great pity, and I wonder if it is possible to revitalize that movement.
Yeah, so as you were talking, one of the things that came into my mind is that people at conferences like this very often see the dichotomy as in government-citizen. The reality is that what sits in between and what is very often the voice of democracy or the voice of the process is political parties. And especially in countries like Belgium, you have political parties that are then also embedded in the labor unions, are then also embedded in the way healthcare systems are organized, in the way sometimes even media is organized. And so that is something which many of our initiatives are kind of trying to work around, consciously or not. But I think we also need to communicate that much better to the citizens and also make sure that institutionally we have ways of going around that. So, for example, in the local elections in Belgium now, which are due to happen on October 14, you have record numbers of independent candidates that are suddenly on mayor's lists in various ways that are going around the party system in a limited way, but at least positioning themselves as people again, as normal people with self-funded campaigns, self-organized campaigns, trying to get into government, at least on a local level. And so I think while we have a lot of wishes and we have a lot of concerns at our ivory tower, if I can say that, level of wanting more democracy and loving democracy in the European Union, I think we need to think more about what the reality of that looks like and how we can disrupt that system, how we can kind of rebuild it, reinvent it, work on innovations there. And so one of the things, as you were mentioning, we need more domes, is I think we need to also go back to the system of agoras as they had them. It's been mentioned, the this morning as well, as they had them in Old Rome and Old Athens, on public places, public squares that are institutionalized, structural, physically there, that people know they can come to speak to anyone about anything, including to local government and to politicians about their concerns, rather than assume people have to, I don't know, email a party with their concerns and then it may get taken up or not. So that's just my random thoughts as I heard you speak. Thank you.
Well, I might just add to that. But I think that direct democracy is playing a really important part in that, because I think people are like, it was told before, like especially young people, they think like politics is not connected to their lives and they don't find an entrance. So we have to involve them through specific debates about specific themes that really are concerning their lives. And I think like direct democracy is one moment where we as a society really speak about one topic only. And I think that's important because so many people are confused about that many topics we have, like the many challenges we have today, like the many fears, you said it, that you have in your life or your future. It's so all-consuming that you don't go out and talk like, and when we have direct democracy, we say, okay, now for this moment as a society, we speak about one topic, and we try to explain everybody what this topic has to do with his or her life, you know, like, and you can have like different strategies to reach groups which are not close to politics. But you have to have like this moment where we say, okay, now we talk about this, and then we talk about it for a time, and then we decide about it together. So people really see like that it's worth to engage in politics, because I can be a part of it, and I even can be responsible for the outcome of it. And I think that's an experience, like we have to do much more, like we have to give the people the possibility to make this kind of experiences so they find an entrance into politics. And I think like we see this all the time, like if one thing happens which really concerns you, afterwards you think totally different about all politics, because you felt like how politics is connected to your life. And we had this like big example in like my city, maybe you've heard about it, we built this, like it's just a train station, but it's a big train station and it's built under the ground, so it costs like an enormous sum of money, like we are like 10 billions for a hole in the ground, you know, like, and this project has made so many people angry about how politics work these days. And we even had a referendum about it, but way too late. So like people could say, okay, if you go out now, you wasted like 5 billion of euros. So people said, okay, we have to stay in now. But like this point made so many people become more political. And I think for young people, it's always like that. They have to have one reason to go into politics, and then they discover it, like the whole of it. So we have to make that entrance happen for a lot more people than we have it now.
I see a problem in the kind of speaking. There is politics, and everybody, or nearly everybody is talking like this, that politics is another sphere in the top and so on, and we try to connect it and so on, but that's the problem at all. Every life is very political and so on, and how to solve a problem, you have a very stinking fish in the top, and the people don't know how to act against that. And that what we try is to re-energize this idea of agora and so on, but where could it be? Yeah. So we go into repair cafes, open workspaces, shared spaces and so on, and start there with the people who are there, and then try to find agora in the public sphere like this. Yes, and I think this could be a solution to have more life in public and more connection between the people. But I don't know how to solve the problem with governments and so on at the top. They are not at the top. They are doing all the time just bullshit. I'm a young man, and I'm very angry about these old people who just...
This is the democracy. This is something else.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
So if it is this way, it's not democracy. This is.
Okay, the starting point should be education, because in Italy, education don't see the European institutions as a subject in school. This is the problem. So that the students go to the university by ignoring completely the European institutions, European problems, the European Union as a building. And this should be our starting point, so that by growing up they can feel to be European citizens. Because citizenship isn't so rooted in our people.
I want to stress another point. These days, some people in Germany shout, "We are the people. We are the folk." Yes, but we don't answer, okay, you are part of the folk, but you are not alone the people. Yes, that's not our answer. And there are more and more young people, more intellectual people. They think, and they say it too, the people are too stupid to decide. And that's a real problem. And we have to insist that all people which are vote, yes, they have the same right. They are as stupid and as clever and as intelligent. Yes, this principle of democracy, yes, we have to take care that the shouting of "we are the folk" and the other reaction, people are too stupid to decide, that we have a more positive view on the people, and we should not allow that people go in this way.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, I agree. But I also think we need to redefine the definition and the outline of citizenship, because citizenship is not just having a passport and having a right to vote. Citizenship has duties as well, in my view. Citizens should have the duty to be informed, to maintain themselves, to feel responsible for the collective, for society, and to get engaged in debates that affect them. If you have the legal principle of the good housefather, then the good housefather has duties as much as he has rights and benefits. And so, for example, there is a real success story, I think, if you look at the case of recycling. Recycling came out of nowhere, was pushed by environmental organizations and the later government, but it really penetrated the citizenship that now feel responsible, I think, to a large extent, of course not 100%, but feel responsible to recycle properly, that teach their kids to recycle properly, that will have social pressure and frown upon people that don't do it. And I think we should feel the same about our citizenship and our responsibility to participate in democracy and to act ourselves as well in the interest of the greater whole. So that also the solutions don't always need to come from governments enforcing things, but can come from bottom up. And I think it takes responsible politicians, but it also takes active citizens that feel responsible for this process to work.
The way you explain it, it almost sounds like an individual, as if it's an individual problem. People just need to become active. They need to take responsibility for not just their own lives, but for society. But then the question I ask is, why don't people do that? And I think then we need to address the question of, it was mentioned yesterday as well, the question of inequality. Inequality is rising enormously. If you cannot feed your children, if you cannot pay your bills, how can we expect people to care about the environment, to care about democracy, whatever that may mean for them? So, to me, I think I think we should resist seeing this as, okay, people don't take their responsibility sort of as a moralistic story. We should look into it as a political question. And yeah, this is where I think for sure we need to address the fact that economic inequality is rising tremendously, is, if anything, that is fundamentally undermining democracy and nothing else. So, and well,
Csaba Madarash, one more country in the dome from Hungary.
Right, so
we just made introduced at the first round, and maybe you want to say just a short input. We are already in a good discussions about what is needed for more democracy in Europe and what are the challenges. So, please.
Yeah. Hello, my name is
And
Csaba.
you have to speak loud because
Yes.
they are not there for the video and not for...
Okay. So I'm Csaba Madarász from Hungary, and for your question that democracy and Europe, what do we need? At least we have an interesting perspective rising up from Hungary, that we definitely feel that there's some sort of European intervention is needed to have a stress point or to be pressed like an acupuncture point at the pain, and to have this kind of flow again happen, because what happens when a political party hacks democracy in a sense that they can sell it at home, they try to sell it in Europe, but obviously it isn't something that has a real connection with democracy and citizen participation, but they can sell it as they are doing this. So again, it seems like history is somehow repeating itself in different forms, and we have been in situations when because of different factors, our own country and our own citizens couldn't perform that kind of democratic renewal alone. So for us it is really a strong question how the rest part of Europe can influence, or I wouldn't say how political parties can influence our democracy, but how even other organizations, not only Soros founded, can help us to overcome these basic barriers that our citizens are feeling. And some of these basic barriers are really connected to what you have been saying. So the education of citizenship and the level of understanding is really low, and when the political factor, the propaganda, becomes another huge factor of creating a reality which has no real connection with the real reality, but is a constructed reality, then there are very strong questions. Where do these changing forces can emerge from? And I like the issue of morality, but I think in our case some sort of inner morality is the one and not the political one, which can help to find our own position as citizens. And it shouldn't be decided, okay, the wind is blowing from the right side or from the left side, so I know how to go with that, but some sort of inner stability of morality which comes from the basic understanding of the facts of how recycling and how citizenship and how my responsibility could work in that sense. So, and I think all the statistics are showing that Hungary has one of the least developed culture of citizen participation and citizenship as an understanding. So again, I'm really open to any of your comments to how to overcome this, because it seems that we don't know how to do that.
Maybe I want to put a question in between, because I try to follow all of you and find out what is some common, or what can be the connecting question. And you said at your first statement, Sarah said there is something special about Europe. It can be an example for the rest of the world, but there is also this danger for falling back to nation states, and for me this is the question. All these challenges we are discussing here, is there also a very special European task out of its history, out of the special situation, having a lot of cultures, a lot of languages, a lot of different countries growing and connecting to each other in this European process of integration. So what can be the, not only, it's important, and I agree totally that we need these ideas coming from the bottom, so we need the process of direct democracy, but is there also a star we can follow with, from both sides? There is an idea of Europe, and there is the process, the democratic process to shape Europe. So maybe this question in between for your statements, to have an answer of this out of your country out of your experiences?
Well, I think that I was listening very carefully to what everyone of you just was trying to explain about their doubts or worries or ideals to reach and so on. I think that it is not easy to get to a common solution unless we share just this kind of problems and we understand that what we thought it was only ours is something belonging to the others as well. So just the sharing is the secret, actually. The most important point is that we must remember one not secondary problem. In our societies, no matter where in the world, there are some, we can call them bad people, bullies, abusers of power, what else? Well, these kind of people, somebody can synthesize just can summarize this group of people, this a small minority, calling them assholes. But whatever it is, the term we use, anyway, these kind of people will look for control on everything and everybody. These kind of people, where do you think they can go? Where there is power, there is money. So, expect that in politics there are many of these kind of people. The problem is that democracy, it's open to everyone. Now, if you establish some extremely radical, ethical rules that are preventing this kind of people to reach the power, you can actually create the antibodies typical of democracy. Now, this is the main point of democracy, because otherwise it's very easy to find out that suddenly democracy is disappearing because everybody is criticizing. This doesn't work, which is the problem. We have another alternative solution. Now there are discussions everywhere about the fact that democracy is in crisis. I don't think it is true. The problem is that what is in crisis is the fake idea of democracy that has been presented to everyone. So the main law, the constitution, should be written by citizens, not by somebody else. Can be intellectual proposing, but then afterward we must discuss. Otherwise we cannot accept what is imposed from the top. And that's why the idea is just led to the birth of this website that will be launched by the end of the year, which is ourconstitution.eu, which will be at service of everyone to discuss together and to write down actually the constitution that must be simple, easy to read, easy to understand, and easy to apply. The top, well, welcome if they want to collaborate and they want to suggest, but then it's us discussing, because it's our interest.
I just want to follow what you said about bullies, and I want to share some data for you. I think bullies are very easily recognizable, and we did a research with Rand Corporation during the last presidential election, and the research showed that had the option to vote against were available, participation rate would have increased 7 percentage points in the United States. That would have meant 16 million additional voters going to vote. And not surprisingly, Trump would have received net negative vote of 4%. His core support was less than 15%. Clinton, less than 18%. Trump would have received almost 18% votes against him, less than 15% vote for him. So that's the solution, to use the power to vote against, to get rid of the bad politicians. People recognize who are the bullies.
One point I want to think about the elections for the European Parliament next year, and that's important. And I think we have to think about the rules for democracy, how democracy works on this level in the European Union. And we have the Parliament, we have the Commission. Where's the power? When I make my vote for the European elections next year, where's the power? It's in the Parliament, it's in the Commission, how it works. For me, it's a problem. So, and on the other side, the second point, we have a special view of Europe from my own country. I can only vote people from my own country. So I cannot vote people from Portugal or from Italy. It's impossible. And so I think it's a special, so every time we only look for Europe, what's the best for my country? And there's not a way, what is the best for Europe? And there's a way we have to go to look what's the best for Europe, or not only for our country. And maybe I want sometimes to vote a party who's for Europe.
I'm not coming from the European Union country, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I agree on the idea of the constitution or even federalism in Europe, but then I have to ask how we're gonna make the concept so relevant to the rest of the region. Then what was your name again? Yes, Martin. I cannot agree more what you said before, like how are we gonna introduce such a concept, such an abstract concept of democracy to the people, let's say in Eastern Europe, where they can have difficulties feeding their children, providing for the families, and here in Brussels, capital of Europe, or in Rome, or in London. Even in London, people are getting together in a very high level and talking about the concepts of democracy. How are we going to introduce this concept to the citizen, and how are we going to make citizens more involved? So this kind of topic, even this kind of topic will not be that much relevant to the people who are having economic conditions. Coming from a country, Turkey, where the inequality, the gap between the well-off and the worse-off is great, it's very high. I honestly cannot dare to go on the street, ask people, what do you think about Turkish democracy? They will be offended. I don't know the situation in Europe. I want to think that the gap is not that great in the Middle Eastern countries. But again, there is a gap, I believe. There's a gap between the high elites of Brussels and, people living in Hungary or, Slovenia. So before taking the debates or the topic to how are we going to go for constitution, for example, wouldn't be more logical to introduce those people, what they're capable of, what they're actually in power, because there are European Union citizens as well, but they don't really much care about this. So rather than just putting the constitution or building the articles or putting this very legal terminological language to them and imposing that you're a subject of it, it would be more useful to first promise them that the gap is going to be diminished somehow, so more policies regarding the fiscal policies regarding the European Union citizens, more policies to introduce more equal or just systems, like distributive justice, for example, or reusing the resources, utilizing the resources. Then I am sure this kind of debates will be more relevant, more interesting, at least to all the citizens of Europe. This is what I think, but correct me if I'm wrong. If you think that no, just building up the conversation, just starting the conversation is already a good start, and we are fine with this, I'm okay. But in the other countries, surrounding countries, Ukraine that I've been to, or Turkey that I'm coming from, this is not going to work. This is my experience.
You have an answer about just
Yeah.
afterward, because otherwise
Okay.
you can't say.
The other danger is that in next European elections, people go on by voting in favor or against the local government. unfortunately, this was that happened in France when they voted against the European Constitution. The French people voted against Chirac, not against the Constitution, because they ignored what European Constitution was.
We have 10 minutes left, and maybe who wants to say something to somebody else, to say something what is heard by somebody else and what makes an impression, and said, oh, that's a point I didn't think about before. So to get more in touch with each other in our thinking. So maybe there is something like this in your... Yeah,
maybe. Just kind of in response to you, because I definitely don't want to feel like we have an antithesis. When I mentioned responsibility of citizens, I didn't mean to blame them for any situation or for anything that's going on. What I mean more than anything is, there's a saying in the private sector where I originally came from, culture will eat strategy for breakfast. We can strategize all we want, we can put institutions in place all we want. Ultimately, the culture will overrule everything. And we need to install a democratic culture where there is peer pressure towards democratic activity and action and attitudes and habits. And I don't want to blame the victim in this case or blame the citizen for the situation, but equally I think we need to be very careful about patronizing the citizen too much in this, about again being the well-meaning elite that is going to try and solve it and trying to educate them towards better behavior and all of that. I think the citizen will always punish that kind of attitudes, and the citizen is one active entity, and of course multiplied by millions. They act as individuals, they act as members of families, they act as employees of companies, they act as NGO volunteers, they act as parents, they act as many different identities, but they ought not to be patronized, because they have their own will. They will find their education if they need to, if they feel it is important, and if they feel active, if they feel responsible, if they feel they live in a culture that allows them and that asks them to participate long term, not just in an individual discussion. I think it will be there. So in response to what you mentioned, I think I'm up for any initiative that involves them more, and I'm up for any redesign of an institution, but I think the culture and this activation of the citizen matters more than anything.
Can I just add to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm completely with you, but I think like there's one basic thing everybody wants, and that's security. Like it's economic security and feeling safe, and I think that's the condition for every democracy to thrive on, that you have people that are not insecure about their like they have security. It's the starting point to get involved for anything. So I think it's really like a drama that in like countries like Germany, which like the economic conditions are like one of the best in the world, but still we don't make our people like free to engage really in politics. Like it's, even if in one of the richest countries we are not able to give people what they need to become like responsible political citizens, we have a big problem there, and it's about economic inequality. It's about a system which makes us dependent on economic growth, which like it's eating up all our time, like people working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, not having time to engage politically, socially, because they have to earn money. And they earn money, like you've read maybe about this bullshit shop, like this new book of David Graeber. He's like I don't know how much percentage, like 40% of the jobs we do are bullshit jobs that don't even are worth anything for anybody. So it's like we're losing all this time, all this energy of people in a sector which is like damaging even the environment so badly. And like that's the next step we have to like go. We have to, I don't know if you agree with this, but the basic income is one of the ideas out there. Like we have to get time from the economic sphere and put it into the public sphere and into the political sphere, and we have to change this like lose of energy and power in the people, which goes in the wrong direction right now. And then we go in a circle, because how do we do this with these elites we have right now? And like you always come back to the point, only the citizens themselves will decide such a thing. And we've seen this in Switzerland. They had a referendum on basic income. And they are, at least, like, they didn't vote for it because they're still too much afraid of a big change like this. But they are the country who talked the most about it, who understood the most about it, who realized what potential it had the most. So yeah, I think that's the agenda we have to press for, like that we are as a society able to speak about that kind of ideas more intensively, so they can become like a real possibility, like something people really can believe in. And yeah, it should start right now, and it starts here in these little steps, but it should be like becoming bigger soon.
Okay, thinking about Hungary and Poland these days, and there's one really important thing. We are thinking about civil rights, human rights. We are thinking about human rights, civil rights, and how we can save these rights in Poland and in Hungary. That's the main point these days in Europe, I think. And we have no real good instruments to press the governments over there to change their politics. And that's really important. And we need other institutional rules that we can save the principle of civil rights in these countries. And there's another point worldwide. If very often we have countries which go into, by revolution or anyway by a evolution process, who go into a civil right process, and they have for a short time good civil rights and they save them. And we need some rules worldwide that they cannot go back to dictatorship and so on. And this is another point I think that's very important beside these poor democracy rules.
You said a lot about people are in a family and so on. In short, they are embedded in a social environment, and so I think we are talking about Europe, and it's too big to I don't know, to communicate, or we don't want to communicate to these people at the ground and so on. I think we need more smaller units to act. Yes, not that voting system. That's an answer or response to all people who said, yes, we have to vote what's best for Europe. Why we have to vote? Yes, and then we have to do it together. What's best for Europe? Not vote and then I go home. No, that's not the. And but to be able to act, we need small units. And maybe for democracy, we can learn a lot of from anarchy. We can redefine or just inspired by anarchy, small units. And maybe then we have the question of inequality, because there's a federalistic system that is they do what they need and so on, and then connect the units and build it up, but not Europe. What's the idea? And then I don't know what. Not I cannot imagine.
I mean, what we talk a lot about democracy, but myself growing up in Switzerland, and experience it really from the childhood on, it is also about identity. And I just question myself, how do we create this European identity? Because I feel as a European citizen, right? Because I was traveling also when I was young, and can we not find also solutions, through the back door to gain this responsibility? For example, there is this initiative that gives away Interrail tickets, right, for free, so that actually young people start to exchange with each other and build up an identity as a European citizen, which then also leads to responsibility. And I believe initiatives like that, bringing young people together, is actually really helpful to, in the next step, build up a strong democracy for the European Union.
Just quickly in response to your question, what touched me was maybe your moment when you said, actually I'm angry. I think we are as sort of intellectuals, well educated and so forth. Indeed, we need to recognize that anger can be a very positive emotion. And maybe we should become more angry. We should allow ourselves to become more angry, make our own anger constructive, and recognize that the anger of many more citizens out there that we most of the time don't see, because we just live in different circles. That's the way it is. That their anger is justified, and we should try to make also their anger productive and constructive.
Yeah. 1 million French people bought books about the European Constitution in 2004, and so they are decided very informed. Maybe it wasn't. There were some other reasons why they didn't want this constitution, but this was one main point, and we should learn from this process, because I think they didn't want this constitution because it was not a good result of this European Convention, and maybe we need another form of convention the next time. We need a convention which is elected. One part should be elected. Maybe one other part of the convention should be ausgewählt, quasi Zufallsauswahl. Randomly selected. We could learn from the Irish Citizens' Assembly, which is very interesting. I think there will be a panel in the program today or tomorrow, and that could be a good way to bring up a new European Convention, which is a really constitution made by the people.
And maybe a third part could be totally free
a public
and
sphere
self-organized.
part.
Yeah, self-organized, total free part, collecting support and bringing their impulses in the convention process.
I have two things to add. One is but the recent experience that we have had in Hungary regarding democracy, I think it is really valuable. It could be a real valuable lesson for all countries. I mean, what I'm thinking about is that when we design a nuclear reactor, there are certain ways of treating security. Like from the scientific perspective, there are different modeling ways. Like, for example, the fault tree model. I don't know if everybody has heard about the fault tree model. So it's like pointing out to those little gates where things can go wrong. And I think our famous Hungarian creativity has shown itself in very ironical ways of how to kidnap a country. And I do think that if we could systematically draw a scientific, not a roadmap, not even a mind map, but I would say a fault tree analysis of democracy by the recent experiences, it could help at least to overcome our general emotional acceleration that we think that how things should be or should not be. Because what we have witnessed is a real serious, calculated, mathematically very accurate way of hacking democracy from the political view. So that's one thing that I think our experience can add to a different future of Europe. But I'm I'm expressing myself from a scientific point of view, which is maybe not easy to digestible for everybody. The other thing was that I think until Europe doesn't put some seriously strong self-restricting tools on how European funds are being spent, we won't have any change. I mean, if you see that in your country, that's European money and how it is spent, everything is going to be 3 times cheaper. There is no information about the project. There is not even a single website where I can transparently see what the hell is going on. I have to submit freedom of information request to my own country, then maybe it goes go to the jurisdiction, so why cannot have a public database of all where the European funds gone and how and what cost what? So, you know, these are the basic facts that we definitely require from our country, from our money, to be transparent. But on the European level, you know, what is going on, it's really not as transparent as in your country. So that's just one point.
So, at last, I want to say we have to think that there is one world, and not only Europe, there is one world, and we in Europe, we are a part of this world. And all what we are doing, what we are thinking, what we are making, it's not only for us in Europe. And especially for your Turkish woman, we have to think Europe is more than the European Union, more than the constitution of the European Union. And therefore, I think always we have to remember this. And at last, I want to say a big thank to all of you to come to this talk, to speak with us, and I hope we have in the afternoon a second talk is equal so like this. And every time I'm talking in the storm, I know living is very, very beautiful, and it's very, very colored, and it's especially wonderful to speak with people in this way about things, about our world. So, thanks.
Thank you.